Mr. President, Majority Leader, I rise to sponsor the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget of the Department of Foreign Affairs, the DFA, including its attached agencies. Under the 2026 National Expenditure Program, or NEP, the DFA's proposed budget is 29.808 billion, an increase of 2.197 billion over its 2025 allocation of 27.611 billion. The GAB from the House of Representatives retained the NEP level with minor realignments, including the transfer of 5.6 million from the OSEC to the Foreign Service Institute to provide comprehensive health insurance for the personnel and their dependents, alongside realignments for maintenance and operating expenses to personal services for the creation of additional plantilla and contractual positions, increases in living quarters and overseas allowances, and other benefits, as well as higher capital outlay appropriations. Meanwhile, the Senate proposes a total budget of 29.837 billion for the DFA, an increase of 29 million over the NEP and GAB levels, composed of the following: 20 million for the Office of Cultural Diplomacy, as suggested by Senator Loren Legarda, to support the Philippine Studies Program, and 9 million or 3 million each also from Senator Legarda, Philippine Embassy in Berlin, Consulate in Frankfurt, Embassy in London to augment their MOOE. Those are the highlights of the budget of the DFA. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And to ask the first to be recognized is our distinguished colleague from Pampanga and Tarlac, no other than Senator Rodante Marcoleta, Mr. President.
Senator Rodante Marcoleta is recognized for his interpellation.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. President. In Section 3 of Republic Act number 11983, Mr. President, fugitives from justice was defined as those who flee under the following circumstances. Number one, after conviction by a Philippine court to avoid punishment, or after being charged in a Philippine court to avoid prosecution. Did I quote the law correctly, Mr. President?
Mr. President, if I may respond, Majority Leader. Okay. Yes, to proceed, we are familiar with Section 10B of RA 11983, and the grounds for a passport's cancellation are well laid out, as mentioned by the gentleman from Tarlac.
And Mr. President, under Section 10, I think cancellation of passport was also mentioned.
Yes,
and there are circumstances, I think 5 circumstances under which a passport can be cancelled. Will that be correct,
yes,
Mr.
that
President?
is correct. Upon court order, when there's a conviction, upon court order, as fugitive from justice, a suspected terrorist, or when it was fraudulently acquired or returned to DFA by other government offices.
Upon orders of the court, when the holder is a fugitive from justice, is one of those circumstances, Mr. President.
Yes, that is correct. That's the second circumstance in the aforementioned section.
On what ground will the case of Saldico, Mr. President, fall under these provisions? Does the DFA, for example, consider him as fugitive from justice within the meaning of Section 3, Paragraph J? That is someone who fled after being charged in court to avoid prosecution.
Yes, in theory, it would appear that the former congressman's case would fall squarely under this. However, the DFA explains that they are not yet in receipt of any such court order. Whereas, in fact, in the case of Attorney Harry Roque, as well as Cassandra Ong and the others involved in Pogo, an omnibus resolution issued by Pasig Branch 157 was already received by the DFA, and hence it has canceled the passports of 5 individuals involved in that case po.
Mr. President, considering the magnitude of Mr. Saldico's expose, he mentioned personages even in the higher echelon of government. The magnitude of corruption described in his expose, which came to the country in installments, is something I think it is mind-boggling. So if the passport of Saldico is eventually cancelled, Mr. President, and is brought to justice, what is the participation of the DFA in ensuring the safety of Saldico right from the cancellation of his passport, considering that there will be trillion of reasons why people would like him silenced, if I may say so?
Yes, it is clear to the Secretary that the safe passage and entry of Mr. Ko is beyond their jurisdiction. All they can do is act on the receipt of a court order, verify and evaluate said court order, issue the cancellation, notify the passport holder, and thereafter update all official databases that Mr. Ko is no longer a holder of a valid Philippine passport. As to his safety upon arrival in the Philippines, assuming that he does come back home, I think other authorities, such as perhaps the police as well as the DOJ, would have to take over po.
So that makes the obligation and the duty of the DFA very, very easy. Just to cancel the passport, just like that. And leave it to the police authorities to take care of Saldico.
That is their understanding, that upon the issuance of a cancellation directive and the passport being canceled within all DFA systems, they must notify the individual officially, and the holder may then appeal if the cancellation is administrative and not criminal, which is what it appears to be in this case. They may appeal to the DFA secretary. That seems to be the full extent of the DFA's function.
Let's say the passport of Saldico is cancelled today. And from today until he is transported or deported to the country, nobody will assist him wherever he is now. So the short span, I think, is very important. Upon the cancellation of passport, what will what are the precautionary measures, or what are the things that the DFA might do in order to protect him while he is being transported to the country? Because even on that particular point in time, his life will be already in danger.
Yes, that's correct. Certainly a high-risk individual like the former congressman would require assistance. And being a Filipino citizen, the DFA is fully aware that we will have to notify foreign posts to extend as much assistance as they should to any other Filipino national. And the local authorities in that foreign post, even the local authorities here in the Philippines, to guarantee his safe passage until he comes home.
By declaring the safe passage of a person like Saldico is one. But doing something in order that that declaration or that statement will find reality is another. Halimbawa po, the former president of the Philippines was arrested, temporarily confined in a military, ano na yun, Villamor Air Base. And he was eventually turned over to the Netherlands, halfway around the planet. If the DFA is concerned about the citizens' right, paano nangyari yun? But that is a question later. I'm only trying to cite this one kasi sinasabi natin you can make all the precautionary measures, all the protective measures you can think in the world. Pero ganun lang. So, pwede bang malaman namin ng may konting detalye ba tayo na mapangahawakan like ano po ang ginagawa nyo usually sa ganitong sitwasyon? Ito lang siguro ang sitwasyon na very, very noble. Why? Saldico is not now an ordinary fugitive. He happened to be the key to the unlocking of all these anomalies, the bigger anomalies associated with our flood control projects. This is, I think, the biggest anomaly in the history of our country. So hindi lang po gano'n nasasabihin natin, inalis po natin yung, na-cancel na po yung passport ba? Pero, ano po talaga ang gagawin? Bigyan nyo nga kami ng halimbawa. Kung ano yung mga precautionary measures just to make him, halimbawa, hindi lang yung ordinary diligence or ordinary protections you have in mind because we need to hear him. Marami siyang sinabi. And I think the Filipino people are waiting na ma-process natin lahat yung kanyang sinabi. Especially the personalities behind his expose. Alam natin, napakaraming taong interesado sa kanya. Yung mga taong binanggit niya. At hindi po pangkaraniwang tao yung mga yun. So hindi lamang po administrative na parang ganun lang kasimple. So we can now cancel the passport of Saldico. If you understand, Mr. President.
That's right. Upon cancellation, as mentioned earlier, the DFA is duty-bound to inform the holder of that passport that he no longer carries a valid document. And thereafter, as they would for any other Filipino citizen, they must, to the extent of their office, be able to guarantee safe passage. Tulad nga ng sinabi ninyo, kakaibang testigo at passport holder si Saldico at kinakailangan yung safe passage nga niya magarantiya. So unang-una, yung mga foreign posts sa kanyang pinanggalingan, kung Portugal man yan o Japan o kung saan man siya, sasabihan natin yung mga Philippine Embassy at Konsulado doon. Ganon din yung konsulado doon, kinakailangan timbrehan din yung kapulisan at yung iba pang law enforcement agencies doon sa foreign country na yon. Pagkatapos nun, yung DFA aabisuhan rin sa paglapag dito sa Pilipinas. Yun ang tanging magagawa po nila.
Yun na lang ang tanging magagawa nila, Mr. President. Pero yung mga kalaban, na perceived na kalaban na binanggit niya sa kanyang expose, magagawa din nila Natakutin po yung inyong mga tatawagan. O maaaring susuhulan nila yung mga opisinang pagsasabihin niyo to protect Saldico at all cost. Tama po ba yung aking iniisip na meron din silang kakayahan?
Maliwanag na higit ang kanilang kakayahan dahil mabibigat ang binitawan niya sa makapangyarihang mga tauhan at opisyal. Siguro ang maaari ring gawin ng DFA ay humingi sa mga foreign governments ng armed escorts or karagdagan na security dahil sila naman ang nandun at may kakayahan. Baka maari rin siguro, maliban pa sa mga foreign postings natin, yung Philippine Embassy, yung konsulado, humingi na rin ng tulong dun sa mga law enforcement sa ibang dako.
Kaya po ba nilang gawin yun, Mr. President?
Kaya naman nilang gawin yon. Parati naman sila nakikisuyok kapag may gulo, kapag may aberya, kung may problema. At eto nga, yung issue ng fugitive, hindi ito magiging kauna-unahang pagkakataon na nasabihan yung foreign countries po.
Salamat po sa inyong optimism, Mr. President. Sana po ay mangyari yun. At si Saldico ay malaya at walang kagalos-galos na makauwi sa ating bansa upang sa ganun ay maproseso ang lahat ng kanyang sasabihin at ang taong bayan po ay masatisfy sa lahat ng mga kaugnay na steps na gagawin upang sa ganon ay makamit po natin ang katarungan. Maging accountable po ang lahat ng mga taong binabanggit doon sa kanyang expose. Kung yan po ay panaginip, para sa akin, sana po ay magkatotoo. At alam ko po, ang ating sponsor ay ganon din ang kanyang iniisip.
Kung maaalala po ninyo, dun kay Congressman Arnie Teves, na gawan naman ng paraan ng ating DFA na maiuwi yung si Congressman dito sa Pilipinas. At hanggang ngayon, nananatili pa siya dito sa atin.
Opo, pero si former Congressman Arnie Teves po ay hindi naman po nag-expose ng ganung napakalaki pong mga pangyayari na nakapagdulot po ng kalungkutan sa ating mga mamamayan.
Totoo po yan at alam niyo na sang-ayon po ako sa sinasabi ninyo.
Magbigay po tayo ng mas akmang halimbawa, Mr. President. Section 17 po ng ating Republic Act 9851. Ito po yung Philippine Act on Crimes Against International Humanitarian Law, Genocide, blah, blah, blah. Sa Section 17 po, Mr. President, sinasabi, the state, ang Pilipinas po, shall exercise jurisdiction over persons, whether military or civilian, suspected or accused of a crime defined and penalized in this Act, regardless of where the crime is committed, provided any one of the following conditions is met. Una, the accused is a Filipino citizen. The accused, regardless of citizenship or residence, is present in the Philippines, or the accused has committed the said crime against a Filipino citizen. Ito po yung bone of contention. In the interest of justice, the relevant Philippine authorities may dispense with investigation or prosecution of a crime punishable under this Act if another court or international tribunal is already conducting the investigation or undertaking the prosecution of such crime. Instead, the authorities may surrender or extradite suspected or accused persons in the Philippines to the appropriate international court, if any, or to another state pursuant to the applicable extradition laws and treaties. Mr. President, anong bahagi po nung binasa ko ang nag-apply kay former President Rodrigo Duterte?
Sa pakiwari ko po, wala. Ngunit, ang pagkasabi ng dating DOJ Secretary Remulla na ito ang nagbibigay daan para sa pag-aresto, sa kidnap at sa extraordinary rendition ni President PRRD without any warrant of arrest or any order issued by a Philippine court. So, in my opinion po, and clearly from the transcript of the investigation conducted by this body, then Secretary Remulla appeared to be of the stance that an administrative arrest can be done under the word surrender. This is a case of first impression. There is nothing in our laws that convinces me that this is the case, and because of that, I filed a case against him for usurpation of judicial functions, arbitrary detention, grave threats, grave misconduct, conduct prejudicial to the best interest of the service, at the ombudsman, who almost instantly dismissed it. It's now pending in the Supreme Court with certiorari and other cases.
What is the participation, if any, Mr. President, of the Department of Foreign Affairs in the entire exercise?
Because the discussion has been whether this is extradition or surrender, the primordial question would be whether there exists a bilateral extradition treaty between the foreign state and the Philippines, such that it allows a request for extradition.
So what was the position taken by the DFA? Did the DFA lift its finger in the entire process, like advising an agency or a person or any office from undertaking the whole exercise, considering our jurisdiction?
Inasmuch as to their mind, there was no extradition treaty of the Philippines with both the Kingdom of Dubai as well as the
Netherlands.
The Netherlands, the DFA states that the ICC judicial process lies outside its mandate and does not form any part of its obligations under Philippine extradition law because the extradition request was never made. There is no extradition treaty. Hence, it's outside of the ambit of foreign policy.
Yes, Mr. President. The law says surrender or extradite. There is no extradition treaty existing between our country and Netherlands. And there is also any other treaty na applicable dito kasi kung hindi po ako nagkakamali, 2 taon na po tayong nag-withdraw sa Rome Statute. Even that one, they cannot benefit from that. So what is the difference really between surrender and extradition? Except for the spelling.
To my mind, surrender is unclear because there is no well-delineated definition or process in our laws. Extradition, on the other hand, is fairly clear-cut. In any case, what appears to be clear is that with extradition, there should be, in all cases, a filing of a petition by the DOJ and the RTC. The RTC should issue summons and thereafter, if it sees fit, issue a warrant for the arrest of the accused. All of this did not occur. DFA further states that the ICC is not a sovereign state. Hence, any request for the surrender of a person to it will not be handled by the DFA, but by the law enforcement authorities. So that appears to be the situation with the kidnapping, as it were, of former President Duterte.
Mr. President, when the former president was arrested in March this year, he was arrested and detained shortly at the Villamor Air Base until he was turned over to the ICC in The Hague, Netherlands. Yun po yung nangyari. Tama po.
Yes, tama po.
Ang sabi po ng ating pamahalaan, we simply cooperated with the Interpol, not with the ICC. Is that correct?
Yun po ang dahilan nila, pero maliwanag na yung Interpol hindi na naman nagbigay ng anumang red alert.
Ang pagkakaalam ko po, although hindi naman official po na inamin, yung ICC po ay nag-issue raw ng warrant of arrest against the former president.
Tama, wala po, kundi simpleng diffusion notice lang po ang pinamigay. Na napakaliwanag dun sa diffusion notice na kinakailangan ng warrant of arrest na manggagaling sa mga authorized court.
But Mr. President, may hawak nga po silang kopya ng warrant of arrest pero wala po sa papel. Nandun lamang sa cellphone ni General Torre at the time.
Tama. Yun din ang sinabi. Yun din ang salaysay ni General Torre na pinakita daw niya sa cellphone at lumipas ang ilang oras bago binigyan ng maayos at hard copy, ika nga.
Kung Interpol po ang pinagbigyan ng ICC and the Interpol is the one to serve the warrant of arrest to the former president, Which office is the local counterpart of Interpol in this country, Mr. President?
Ang ICC warrant dapat hindi enforceable po dahil maliwanag nga na yung Interpol unang-una nasa konstitusyon nila dun sa Section 3 or Article 3 kung naaalala kong tama, hindi dapat manghimasok o makilahok kung ang kaso ay political. At maliwanag na politika ang pinag-uusapan dito. So, yun nga ang nangyari at hanggang ngayon ay nakakulong pa rin ang dating Pangulo.
Tama po kayo, Mr. President. Yung diffusion kasi, ang pagkakaalam ko, it is an informal international alert circulated through Interpol channels to request cooperation from member countries. It corresponds to the notices like, may color-coded pala to red, yellow, blue, black, green, purple, and orange if they must comply with Interpol's constitution rules of processing the data. Sa mga tweet, wala pong ibinigay sa Interpol na warrant of arrest, Mr. President. Tama po ba yun?
Ang sumunod ay yung ICC warrant of arrest matapos yung Interpol.
Pero-
Yun ang pagkaintindi namin. Pero maliwanag na wala na tayo sa ICC. So ang pinaglalaban noon ni Solicitor General Nards Guevara, talagang walang jurisdiction ng ICC sa Pilipinas.
Unang-una po kasi, kung babasahin po natin ang isa sa provision ng Rome Statute, sinasabi ron, ang isang citizen na inaresto sa estado, meaning our country, ay kinakailangan dalhin siya to the nearest judicial authority.
Tama po.
Ang pagkakaalam ko po, pag sinabing judicial authority, korte po yun. Pero ang nangyari, Mr. President, dinala siya sa Villamor Air Base. Sa aking palagay ko po, kahit anong gawin natin, hindi po siya magiging representative ng ating judicial authority. Tama po ba yun?
Tama po. At maski yung DOJ, pati yung Prosecutor Fadulion at yung iba pang nandun sa Villamor, ay hindi maaring magpanggap na sila ay korte.
Hindi nga po kasi yung DOJ po, executive department po yun. Ang pagkakaalam ko po, ang judicial department po, ito po yung mga korte. Kaya malayong malayo po at hindi nila tinupad mismo yung provision ng Rome Statute. Ngayon, Mr. President, ang tinatanong ko po kanina, kung yung Interpol ay wala sang kopya ng warrant of arrest, paano po nagkaroon ng warrant of arrest si General Torre para siyang mag-serve sa dating Pangulo? Saan po galing mismo yung warrant of arrest?
Yes, ang pagkaalala ko dun sa hearing, pinadala electronically ng ICC dun sa kanilang counterpart dito sa Pilipinas, which is the Philippine Council for Transnational Crime.
Yan nga po. If the local counterpart of the Interpol is the PCTC, sila po dapat ang nag-serve ng warrant of arrest. At sila din sana ang nagbasa ng Miranda rights. Ang nangyari po, baligtad Ang nag-serve po ng warrant of arrest is General Torre, siya pa yung nagbasa ng Miranda rights. So hindi po nasunod yung tuntunin mismo na binabanggit nila, Mr. President.
Tama po. At nagtaka rin po kami kasi ang nakita natin, yung nandun, si General Torre, sabay nung sinasabing Special Envoy, Ambassador Lacanilaw. At siya bigla ang may hawak ng ICC warrant at siya rin ang sumama kay dating Presidente Duterte hanggang sa The Hague. Pinagtatakahan po dahil yung NCTC ay walang alam sa pag-a-appoint niya at pagbibigay ng otoridad sa kanya.
So sa mga tweet po, maski na sa ating local jurisdiction, Mr. President, yung pong mga subpoena o mga court order, lahat po ng order ng korte, ang sheriff po ang nagdadala. Nagpapatulong lang siya sa pulis kung kinakailangan, pero hindi po pwedeng mawala yung sheriff. Dito po sa pangyayaring ito, yung sheriff, dapat yung executive order ay executive director ng PCTC ang nag-serve ng warrant at siyang dapat na nagbasa ng Miranda warnings. Tama po?
Tama po. Lahat linabag po mula sa konstitusyon hanggang sa international law hanggang sa sariling batas ng ating bansa.
Wala po bang sinabi o ginawa ang DFA, Mr. President? Alam po nila na ito'y tahasan na paglabag sa karapatan ng isang mamamayan. Huwag na nating sabihin siya ay dating Pangulo, kahit na po hindi dating Pangulo. Lahat po ng mamamayang Pilipino ay saklaw ng karapatan na nasasaad sa ating saligang batas. Lalong-lalo na po yung sinasabi nating no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, and property without due process of law. Dito po, talagang walang due process. Nagsalita po ba o gumawa man lang ng aksyon ang DFA sa anumang kaparaanan para ito'y maipaalam natin do sa grupo ng mga tao o opisina na gumawa ng bagay na ito laban sa dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte?
Ang tanging nagawa lamang ng DFA, pagkat sila na rin ang huling nakaalam ng mga pangyayari, yung mga welfare check nung dumating na sa detention center ng The Hague ang dating Pangulo. Dahil ang tumayong kinatawan ng DFA pati ng NCTC ay si Ambassador Lacanilao. Yung welfare check, ginawa ng DFA tulad ng ginagawa nila para sa iba't ibang kababayan natin sa ibang bansa, para sa physical, mental health, legal status, communication sa pamilya, humanitarian aid, access to counsel, at iba't iba pa. May base ito sa iba't ibang batas, pati international law at mga tratado natin. Subalit, ang alam ko, tinutulan po ito ng Duterte family, pati ng kanyang abogado, si Attorney Kaufman po.
Yung po binabanggit ninyo, Mr. President, ay pagkatapos na ng pangyayari. Ang sinasabi ko, yung habang nangyayari, while the process is ongoing, ano po yung ginawa kung meron man? Ano ang sinabi kung meron man ng DFA dito sa ongoing and developing story? May kaugnayan nga po sa dating Pangulo mula sa kanyang pagkakaaresto and brief detention in the Villamor Air Base until his eventual turnover to the Hague, Netherlands. As a principal agency of government, gusto naming malaman, meron po ba kayong in-advise man lang? Meron kayong ginawa? Kung meron man,